the water here, Joe, that did this, the way to visualize this is to, again, begin to think of tsunami. You have to think tsunami because tsunami is the closest scale of water flow that we've experienced in modern times. No river flood has even approached this.
Right.
You know, no flood in any floodplain.
Nothing that we can put into perspective.
Right. The closest we can get to it is a tsunami. But even there, you got to picture the tsunamis that we've experienced in the last decade and a half in Indonesia and Japan. When they made landfall, those tsunamis were roughly between 20 and 50 feet, depending on where you were relative to the oncoming wave and how far distant you were from it. Here, what you have to visualize is a tsunami sweeping over the land that's over 1,000 feet deep. That's what happened here. And we know that because we can trace the high water marks on the hillsides are clearly left. The high water marks are clearly etched into the hillsides. So we now know, based upon the study of the ripples, and the water here was moving down. It's filling this basin. It's rushing in a great tsunami from the north of fresh water, meltwater, coming off the ice sheet. And it's sweeping down over this land at probably 200 or 300 million cubic feet per second, which is an inconceivable amount of water. It's many times in excess of every river flowing on Earth, flowing today all at once. It's beyond that many times, 10 or 20 times beyond that.
One of the trippier things about water is that water in itself is kind of fractal in some sort of a weird way. When you look at the actual molecules of water, it's almost like we don't distinguish it as being a fractal thing because we see it as like this moving flow. But if you're looking at the actual molecules of water, a cup of water that you dip your fingers in, which is seemingly completely innocuous, becomes this massive element of change when the volume is 1,000 feet high and just rolling over with massive amounts of weight behind it. It's that same stuff.
Massive amounts of weight. Enough
Very
weight
bizarre.
that it's actually causing seismic responses.
I can only imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, how much
it is.
weight are you talking about that can create these 50-foot high walls? But what's fascinating to me is that we don't have a scale like in our minds as a reference, like the difference between that little cup and these gigantic waves that you see that surfers travel by jet ski to get to, off of, I believe it's Mexico.
Right.
You ever seen those massive waves? They go way out, miles out to get to these crazy waves, and we ride them in. They're like 60, 70 feet high. Like that's the comparison, almost like a glass of water to those waves, and then that to this.
It scales up, it scales up, it scales up, and at a certain point it can change the whole story of civilization.
Almost doesn't compute. Like you can intellectualize it, but it's almost not computing.
One of these flood flows here is 3 orders of magnitude greater than the largest measured modern flood. In other words, over 1,000 times greater. In terms of peak discharge or volume, you would have to scale up at least 1,000 times greater than any modern measured flood to get to the smallest, really, of these flows here. Because this is just one place, one locale on 5 states where you can trace literally an ocean of fresh water sweeping across the entire Pacific Northwest, pretty much washing away anything that was there.
It's almost like we have a defense mechanism built in where we ignore how vulnerable we really are. Like we put it, maybe that's one of the reasons why people are so reluctant to really go deep into studying asteroidal impacts.
I think it is, yeah.
Or even to pay attention to this stuff. Like that this could happen.
And this is, I mean, those are not two separate subjects, because this is the result of the comet impact on the ice cap. This is why I feel that the research in this field is so vital.
Okay, right there. Yeah. Now.